Hope I can get you a good start of the day. I'm going to share with you some of my recent interest on cloud analytics. In particular, how to use cloud for beaming up security measures. We're using cloud everywhere now. Gradually, you're going to see all your email, all your personal files, all the correspondence, everything is on the cloud. So really, we see this convergence of important areas like social networks and the cloud services, mobile services, even the future so-called IoT. It's really converging into an integrated service system. So, as we heard from yesterday's many of the talks, the security and the privacy violations have hindered the acceptance of the cloud for our future, in our future operations. So what I would do is going to report to you our progress in this area, in particular how to use mashup. That is, using multiple clouds interactively for a common purpose. I will use the Amazon cloud as an example to show how can you eliminate large number of spams from Twitter blogs. The Twitter service, depending on how long is your data collection period, you could easily have millions of tweets, so-called blogs. But embedded in the large number of messages, there are spams. Large number of, very annoying. Okay, they disturb, they really downgrade the service, the quality of the service. Let's look at the evolution of the so-called big data era. What do we see in the old days? We had terabytes, gigabytes, we consider very large database. But today, we're getting to petabytes, 10 to the 15 power, petabyte. And in the future, we're going to encounter exascale, 2 to the 18, that much data to be processed. So you're going to see a whole growing of a so-called big data industry for the future. This is going to happen in only a few years down the road. And the projection of this revenue from the big data industry could be tremendous. You just look at how Facebook, Twitter, or many of the social network services, how they grow. Over 1 billion registered users on Facebook. All the small, large, and small business, they advertise on Facebook. So Facebook is really becoming a way to do business. The kids, ever since kindergarten, they play with iPad. They play with their phone. The kids spend more time on Facebook than you can imagine. They chat each day hundreds of short messages with their exchange with their friends. I look at my daughter's smartphone because I was wondering why she was always doing this. So then I realized the message was just, how are you? And then reply, yes, I'm fine. What I'm trying to say is, really this explosion of this data service that brings to our attention the security, the privacy, all sorts of problems pop up. Yesterday in the panel, I have mentioned this. Bring your own device. This device meaning essentially smartphones or whatever. You make your bank payment, you read your email, you do everything, bring your own device. But that has posed a security problem, has posed a privacy problem. Now, we are in the era, so-called bring your own cloud. You're not only bring your smartphone to the business site when you exchange information with people, you make a payment on the road, whatever. You bring your own cloud over to join the local cloud to do business. You work, imagine, you work in your company, then you bring in Amazon into the company. You bring Dropbox, everyone using Dropbox. Okay? So there is a conflict between the cloud, the providers. So we have to concern about it. Let's look at the progression of the so-called big data analytics. In the old days, terabytes, small data. We have basic analytics to analyze what's embedded in the data, what's message that you can reveal. Essentially, it's to help avoid past mistakes and duplicate the previous success. That's all you can do. You cannot predict the future, but you try to check from the past experience. Very simple analysis. Now, as the more advanced analytics allow you to analyze impact of future scenarios. You can predict, so-called predictive analytics. As data getting bigger and bigger to the petabytes, to the zettabytes, and so on and so forth, we are beginning to use cloud. As you use cloud, you could handle the large database much more efficient with the Hadoop, with the clusters. However, still, you vary along the same lines of simplicity. What we desire is really this 3 arrow shows. We like to go to this in the future, that you can conduct predictive analytics service in real time. Today, many of the data analysis still take a long time. You want to make a critical business decision, you have to have real-time service. So this is really what we want to achieve for the future. If you check with the NIST recently posting of 51 big data services in those areas. As listed here, these are the important big data services identified in 51 usage patterns. We see the government heavy use, the commercial use, defense use, healthcare. I think through this conference, you're going to be exposed with many of those applications. In order to execute large amount of data in real time, and then you can also build into the system some intelligence to predict, to uncover the patterns, the information. You can sort out hidden information, transform that into so-called actionable decision makings. We need large-scale data mining. We need to analyze the data, review the hidden patterns. So in order to do that, as you can see, if I arrange this into 5 layers, the infrastructure management, you provide the virtual machines, deploy the clusters, monitor the performance, and the workflow patterns. Then you put together a huge amount of data, so-called data lake, or you may as well call it data ocean. Associated with every data item, they are metadata. The metadata even greater than the data, the raw data itself. The metadata essentially track the usage history of the data items. And that usage data originally created, then go through a life cycle, many users. So the metadata tagging becoming heavy duty there, okay? So either structure the data, or yesterday I heard from one speaker mention about unstructured data, 80% of the data pattern, especially social media data, they are unpredictable and structured. So it makes it more difficult to do this. Then we have to view the data. We have to provide index to describe the data, a graphical representation of the data. From there, then we go into this level for analysis and discovery. And this is the machine intelligence, machine learning capability that you're supposed to really into. You look at Google. Google has this big project on self-driving vehicles that emphasizing deep learning. Google has Google Maps, you know it. Now they turn that all the huge amount of information into some intelligence that allow future vehicles to be able to drive by checking the map, by checking the camera, many of the sensors. Then you can steer the vehicle automatically. So this is really a capability. We try to build the machine intelligence into the future services. Finally, you have to report to the performance, monitor the chart, the dashboard to show the display all the results. Big data, so-called big science, data science. This really the overlap of 3 areas. One is really the application domain expertise. The second is really the statistics mining techniques, the traditional. And the third area is really the programming skills. These 3 areas intersect into so-called analytics systems. So we are talking about using large amount of servers in a data center. Then you arrange them into large parallel processing pool, MapReduce. Okay, that allow you to do quick analysis, quick scanning, quick mining of the data, extraction features, then decision making. As you can see here, this pattern. So really from terabytes to petabytes to as a scale, zettabytes in the future. Unstructured, that's the emphasis today, okay? And business analytics is almost pursued every high-tech companies, IBM, Microsoft, you name it, Amazon, they're all pursuing after this, okay? Another thing I like, I already mentioned is these 2 areas really, it cannot be separated. Unstructured data, meaning traditional relational database, SQL processing no longer can handle. So we have to seek for non-SQL processing database, and also this new paradigm with the Hadoop, with all this environment and the tools that create. Another observation I'd like to say is really for business, for scientific discovery, for government applications, you just cannot say we don't leverage on data. Okay? All those important decisions really change the whole paradigm. The whole paradigm. Sometimes I was telling my students, I said, you decide to choose computer science or computer engineering as your specialty, it's make your life very busy. Every 6 months you have to read a lot of things, otherwise you become obsolete quickly. Okay? So this is the situation. And this trust management is really what's a big issue. I think in my next few slides we'll address this. Then I simply list about 10 most important open problems in using cloud, in using the big data. I think many other speakers also mentioned this. I'm not going to go into detail due to limited time. And we do need security infrastructure to cope with the access control, processing control, incident management, and privacy control. All of these important measures, as you can see here, or we set up policies for trust management, for example. Trust management, you can do trust delegation, you can do trust negotiation. Trust could be negotiated. You always negotiate, husband and wife negotiate trust, right? So we have to set up all those policies. What next? I will show you an example of so-called mashup. You have 3 clouds. One cloud could be the entry point for all the data collection. For example, Facebook or Twitter, they collect a large amount of data. From there, you go into a data mining cloud that would filter out unwanted data and retain the useful data. Then finally, you make, this could be public cloud. Then you go to a private cloud. The reason is public cloud, sometimes you cannot trust. Therefore, you go to a company-owned private cloud with more protection on the privacy issues, others, then you do the final decision making. I mentioned Twitter spams. It's a serious problem. Suppose I have large streams of Twitter blogs, terabytes, 10 terabytes, or even petabytes. If you want to filter out the spams, for example, 1 terabyte, we experiment. It takes 21 hours to get rid of the spams. Too long. By no means that's considered online real-time service. So therefore, what we did is we collected a terabyte of data from Twitter, streamed into S3 in Amazon. And then from S3 we partition, then we do map reduce on the EC2. Then we reduce, for example, if I use EC2 for 128 nodes, I can reduce the filtering time by 100 times, down to manageable time. In 10 minutes, I can get rid of all the spam. Easy. Okay, so that's a very good example showing how to do this. And also the machine learning is by checking whether you have a legitimate message and the spams, you feed back that into the training set to change the filtering threshold. Okay, so you do have this intelligence feedback for using Bayes filtering algorithms. You do that dynamically. This shows the 1 terabyte drop to, as I said, 21 hours to 12 minutes. Okay, 12 minutes, which is predictable. And this shows the spam detection rate for the accuracy from, depending on the threshold. I gave you 3 threshold values. For example, you choose in the middle, and then you can see the recall rate drops, and also the spam detection rate increased, and the legitimate blocks also being identified with a high percentage of success rate. I think my time is up. I just in the next two slides showing there's a big workflow of the data in an alerts process. What you do is you have to have data infrastructure for storage, for anonymization, and then you do conditioning of the data, and then before you send the data for transformation, aggregation, and matching and mining before you can provide the desired services. Okay? And this whole system needs to be streamlined. It by no means any company claim they have implemented all of this. We do need, the whole message I try to get to you is we need to build a trusted environment for future cloud services. Okay? Cloud service, we claim the major advantage is really coming from the so-called economy of scale. You do the scalings. Most cloud providers, they have professionals. They hire professionals to handle the security problem. So in general, we can trust them. Unless, say, this company, Amazon or whatever, Google, they are ordered by some top government officers saying you have to provide all the data to the government for other purposes. Okay? Otherwise, they essentially respect your privacy. But how can we enforce the security privacy measures? We need, yesterday, Carl mentioned about accountability. We do need accountability to achieve that. And also we need with the centralization, the security measure could be enforced better. And this shows the prediction for the future. My last slide. I think it's right here. I simply conclude by saying we needed to upgrade our curriculum in the college education on big data and cloud service. And we use the cloud for various purposes today. But by no means we are in the maturity stage. We still have quite a number of years to go to perfect the service. So my final message is really the cloud, the mobile, the IoT, the social network, all this integrated together. I like to have all my students learn all these 4 areas. I always tell them to take one course on cloud. You don't know anything about the wireless service, you don't know anything about the social network, you are behind. You really have to broaden your knowledge in all these areas. Our human relationship changed, right? And the economy affected, and even political system changed, I think. I simply ends here.